Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Uduak Amimo. Now, the credibility of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, the IEBC, has been tested by the recently concluded by-elections in Kericho and Malindi. KANU claims its candidate was robbed of his victory by the IEBC colluding with Jubilee. While in Malindi, the conduct of the poll has been questioned due to allegations of voter bribing and harassment. So today's guests are KANU Secretary General Nick Salat, ODM Chairman John Badi, and speaking for URP and the JAP formation is Nandi Senator Stephen Sang, who's the chair of the Delegated Legislation Committee in the House. We weren't able to get a representative of the IEBC on the show. As always, though, we do have a panel, Mutegi Njau and David Makali. Good morning and welcome to the show. Mr. Salat, I'll start with you because you have a litany of grievances. State your case.
Well, thank you for having us this morning to state our case on the just concluded elections in Kericho. Well, it took us a week to analyze the conduct of IEBC and how it conducted that election in Kericho, and we've come up with more than quite a number of malpractices on the part of IEBC. And we initially, on the day that the polls were being transmitted, we wrote a letter to them, and that letter is in their possession, which they have confirmed. And following that, we did now took to analyze exactly how IEBC conducted those elections, and for sure many things went wrong, and from their part they never responded to any of our statements that we wrote to them that this is an election that we felt was not conducted rightly. And right from the campaigns, the inclusion of government officers in the campaign, the inclusion of administration during the campaigns, those are and going forward at the way the transmission of the results, which is unheard of, and the speed at which it was done, that is one which we all felt something was not right, necessitating us now to proceed and actually get some experts to see how this could have how they could have actually arrived at transmitting results at such a high speed.
Ezra Chiluba,
yes,
the CEO of the Electoral Commission, says, how can you blame efficiency? They're efficient. How do you blame efficiency?
In fact, on that particular night, I even spoke to him. I called him at about midnight, Chiluba himself, and told him exactly how can you be saying there is a connectivity problem in Kericho, because when the results were being received, there was a network problem, and yet the one in Nairobi now, the server for IEBC, is said to have been functioning. So Nairobi was informing Kericho. So how did Nairobi get the information if the connectivity problem was in Kericho? So that's where we started to question, how is Nairobi able to say that the information is being transmitted to Nairobi, and yet at the polling station at the county tallying center there was an issue where the CRO was complaining that there is an issue with the connectivity problem.
David, you want to come in, but let me just point out to our viewers that in addition to being a panelist, you're also consulting for the IEBC, yes, and you are in Kericho. Yes.
Well, on that basis, I can now come in. True, yes, I'm the communication advisor to IEBC, engaged to help them with putting out their story, telling their story. I want to confirm that I was in Kericho for the 3 days, before the election, during the election, and after the election, during the declaration of the winner. True, and I've seen a copy of the letter that the Honorable Salat wrote to the IEBC, and he wrote that letter the same night when tallying was going on. It was delivered to the CRO at the tallying center. He did not raise any other objections except the fact that the results were coming in fast. In fact, he asked that the tallying be stopped because they were coming in fast, which to me did not make a reasonable request, because, I mean, results coming in fast, what is the problem? Has he identified a problem? And I think on the basis of that, I mean, there was no reason to stop the tallying. And the tallying was you see, questions have been raised about how the tallying was done, and anybody who was there, and I'm sure Honorable Sam will also tell the same story because he was in the same tallying center. I was there with him. Tallying was being done at polling centers and results sent out simultaneously to 3 points. So it's actually wrong what Nick Salati is saying, that the Kericho tallying center was receiving results from Nairobi. The results by RTAs are sent to 3 places. One to the constituency tallying center. They knock at the same time. They knock at the headquarters server simultaneously, and they knock at the tallying center where we are. They are simultaneous. They are happening at the same time. But none is transmitting from one to the other. Yeah. In fact, that is why when the network failure happened right in the tallying center, because we were so many of us there, I could not WhatsApp. I could not get on the internet right there. And everybody who was there had the same problem. It was not anything unique to IEBC. And that's why there was a problem of network there, in terms of projecting the results from the internet right there onto the screen by projector, because we had to have a connection by internet. That is a simple problem. But somebody has tried to magnify that to make it look like there was a particular problem.
That addresses one issue, yes?
What I want, now we have an IEBC person here to represent that side of you were asking, you didn't have one, he's here, and definitely I speak because I was there, and that's what I'm saying. As a consultant, you try and justify the mistakes that we're pointing out. What we're trying to say, this is a county election.
Yes.
We have Malindi, which is a constituency election.
Yes. Very well.
Okay? Here you're trying to tell us that the efficiency was only noticed in Kericho. Yet Malindi, up to midnight, they're not actually concluded transmitting their results. And by 10 p.m., Kericho was done with.
Can I help? Can I answer that? Just then we move on. And then first of all, Malindi was one constituency. It had 100 polling stations. Kericho had 6 constituencies, 623 polling stations. If you are counting at the rate of each constituency counting one at a time, one vote at a time, you expect Malindi with one constituency to have the same tally at any one point with Kericho with 6 constituencies counting at the same time? Obviously, I mean, that is basic, simple math. You don't need anybody to justify that. And that's why this argument that Malindi's one constituency was recording very slow and Kericho with many was recording very fast. Take one constituency, Malindi, take Kipkelion West, and then compare the tally. Are they coming at the same speed? Then we can argue about that.
Senator, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I think the issues being raised by Nick Salat are very interesting, and you know, to blame an institution for being efficient. Looking at Kericho and comparing it with Homa Bay, you know, when they had their by-elections for the senator for Homa Bay, by about 9, you could already see the indications that, you know, Moses Kajwang was already winning. The same thing for Kabeta, the same thing for Kajiado, and even by around 9, we could tell that in Malindi, you know, the court candidate had won. So really, and in fact, we waited at the tallying center all the way to 3, about 3.
Yes.
But we still had 2 more polling stations, you know, where the presiding officer had not submitted the results. And we went home on the basis of provisional results until the next day that we got, you know, the official declaration of results. So for Nick and the Kanu to say that, you know, by 10 we were done in Kericho, of course that is a lie. And I think it's important really to be honest with some of these facts. But I have never seen a situation where an institution is being blamed, you know, for doing the right thing, you know.
Let me bring in Mr. Mbadi, because we're hearing about the IEBC's conduct and, you know, questions about Malindi, where ODM won versus Kericho. What's your take? Do you think that the IEBC handled itself improperly?
For me, the concern should not even be about the tallying of the votes and site specifics, because really, for us to be sure of misconduct or otherwise, we need to do a forensic audit of that tallying of the votes to be sure that it was not done properly. And I would confess that I did not follow closely the Kericho by-election. I have no facts, and therefore I would do disservice to the country if I would comment on how effective or efficient that by-election was conducted. But fundamentally, I look at the conduct of the two by-elections and I ask myself, did IEBC live to the expectation of Kenyans? First, we have the statute laws in place, where we have prescribed the minimum that we expect from IEBC in terms of conducting elections. And elections don't take place only on the voting day. Elections start from the times of campaigns and the preparation to the voting day. And IEBC, in my view, failed miserably, both prior to election, on the voting day, and after the elections. Why do I say that? Number one, the law is clear that you are not, the public officers are not supposed to, one, to participate in campaigns for any party or any political grouping. Two, that state resources are not supposed to be used in electioneering. Three, bribery is actually made illegal in our laws, and we even call some voter treatment. Remember, Senator Wetangula has been dragged through a process. And by the way, I don't see that as bad. Only that if you do it selectively. We have reported clear cases where a cabinet secretary in Kericho was obviously floating these provisions of the law, campaigning actively, and having no apologies to make about it, coming publicly on TV and telling people he's a member of URP and is campaigning for Jubilee candidate. And IEBC is doing nothing about it. Way after the elections is when we hear IEBC talking of taking action. Why couldn't they summon this individual who is floating the laid down legal framework about public servants? Two, we saw money being spent on these two by-elections. Whether it was spent from the national government or county government, there is no excuse. IEBC has the legal machinery. They have the teeth to bite. We gave them the laws to be able to act. They did not. And so, in my view, IEBC has continued to fail Kenyans. And I'm happy that now, you remember, it was called. Now KANU has joined us.
The referendum.
Yes. Now KANU has joined us. And by extension, it's not just KANU. Duale, who is the leader of majority in the National Assembly, has also joined us. And by extension, I think URP has joined us. And Stephen should just confirm that IEBC has failed now Kenyans in total. And it is high time we started discussing what to do with this IEBC. Finally, on this issue of tallying, if you look at the Okoa Kenya referendum bill that is before IEBC, and which again they are mishandling, we have proposed that when you are transmitting election results electronically, you are not just supposed to send it to IEBC. The returning officers, the presiding officers in polling stations are supposed to relay the same to political parties participating in that election. And therefore it would have been very easy for KANU to confirm the results if the results were relayed to the Secretary General and the Chairman of KANU and the leadership of JAB through a legal framework that is allowable by law. And so I think KANU should join us also in the Okoa Kenya referendum so that we have this in place. and very finally, I had Makali mention that simple mistake. There is no simple mistake in an electoral process.
Which mistake?
You should just talked about the relaying of the information, and you said people are blowing it out of proportion. The simple mistakes. I hope I had you right.
My point was that there was no mistake.
Well, if now you have changed that there is no mistake, then now I will take it. But if your position was that there is anything that we can term as simple mistake in an electoral process.
If I may just chip in.
Yes, I think we need to clarify that, because I think you talked about the delay because of network problems.
Yeah, which was just a matter of that particular station, and the delay is in projecting on the screen, because anybody who was following the results could track it online at Vote Kenya, Vote IEBC Kenya. The results were running online, and we were referring people to check online for the results running, live streaming, that we could not project on the screen where the tallying was happening. So there was really, somebody's trying to nitpick something here that really doesn't constitute a violation of the electoral process in any way, because transmission of results. Let me probably, in the interest of Kenyans, to know what exactly happens. The voting process is very simple, and Nick Salad and Kanu knows it. Somebody gets into a polling station. You are identified by your biometric details and your ID. Your name is checked in the register. You pick a ballot paper. You cast. All these things are happening in the full view of the agents of the competing candidates and parties. The votes are counted at the close of the polling day at 5 o'clock. Let me finish. 5 o'clock, they close. Nothing movement like we used to do in the Kanu days where boxes are carried to a tallying center. No, it's right there. Votes are counted, okay? They are finished. The details of that vote count are entered into Form 35A, all right? All the agents sign those results to be accurate. Those results are then sent to the tallying center by RTS.
Makali.
To that extent, where is the rigging? Okay, first let's get the facts right. So you should not be complaining about transmission, because your agents are there and they can tell you what results they got and signed to. And these forms are now available online on the IEBC website for anybody to download all the 623 constituencies. I mean, polling stations.
That is what should have happened in a real. That's what should happen, but that's not what happened, because many people were turned away at the polling stations because the system was malfunctioning.
Which people are this?
We have those.
Let them come forth.
Yes, that's what we're saying. But
you can't produce one person.
I want to make,
but you're making claims.
There's a correction I want to make here, especially to do with what, a claim made by Sang here that the transmission ended at 3 p.m. Here I have, this is the transmission from all, actually we got this from all the polling, the TV stations. If you look, it ended at 10:13. Yes. And this is 623 polling stations.
No, that is it clearly.
Yes.
It's 13 p.m.
at
5:92. How many polling stations were there?
This is 592. Yeah. But at exactly 10:59, that is the one which was down here.
Final?
Yes, the final one at 623 polling stations. Right here.
The final time,
yes.
You are not giving the time.
Yes.
They were lying to the country. We were in that polling station. We waited until, it might not have been 3, but it was way past 1:30.
It was only after I made a phone call.
No, that's a lie. It was way in the wee hours
that letter that we wrote.
There was 2 polling stations.
That letter that we wrote. Otherwise, by 9 o'clock, you would have actually.
First of all, let me say
but for the record, and then we come back to
polling closed at 5 o'clock in all the polling stations. Immediately after that, what exercise followed? Counting of the ballot papers. If a polling station has about 700 and something, which was the highest number, or average, how long does it take for people to count 700 ballot papers? Not more than an hour. After that, what exercise follows next? Send the results. So results began coming in as early as 6:20 to the tallying centers. But the exercise continued up to 10, and then the difficult ones, which took long because they were in remote areas. We waited for 2 polling stations until past 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Senator,
you are not there. If you look at the document that Nick Salat is giving us. The last captured time is at 10:13 p.m.
Yes.
And those were for 592 polling stations.
Yes.
The final one, we don't have a specific time.
Yes.
And the polling station,
polling station was 6:23.
Yes.
So that tells you between 592 and...
I want to tell you, by 10:13, we had 592.
Absolutely.
This is in a county. This is county.
We're agreed on
by 10:13,
592.
going back to Malindi.
Yeah.
They have not even reached half.
Malindi is Malindi.
Yes.
Still with Kericho.
We're not talking about 2 IEBCs here. We're talking about 1 IEBC here.
Okay, fine.
Can I just come in? But I think what Nick Salak is asking, it is the same IEBC that was conducting election in Kericho County with 6 constituencies, 623 polling stations. The same IEBC with the same level of efficiency, or we so suppose, was conducting elections in Malindi with 100 polling stations in 1 constituency, and each polling station should have the same infrastructure to relay results. Therefore, what Salat is saying, that the percentage of vote tally received was higher in Kericho as compared to Malindi. Why? Actually, even the media, I was listening to the media, and they were complaining why they haven't received results from Malindi, just 1 constituency, For a very long time, the results for Kericho were coming in very fast. And we applaud, if it is efficiency, we want to encourage it. But the question is, why was it so efficient in Kericho and not in Malindi? There can only be two answers. Either someone wanted the Kericho results to come in fast, or someone wanted Malindi results to come in late. I mean, and for reasons that we are asking IEBC, let me finish. Someone who wanted the results for Kericho to come in fast, if that was the case, why was that so? If someone wanted the Malindi results to be delayed, was it because they wanted to manipulate the results of Malindi? So either Kericho was so efficient, or Malindi, if Kericho was so efficient and that is the standard, then someone was interfering with Malindi. Okay. If Malindi was the standard case, then someone interfered with Kericho. That is what
logic.
You know, there's
logical deduction,
but it's extremely hypothetical because it's based on imaginary situations. What is called strawman argument. You create something and try to justify it, where there is there are no facts to really attach to it. Look here, Malindi had its own circumstances. They were even reported broadly in the press. There were fights, you know, super agents, political parties trying to be agents of the party. There were fights all over the place in Malindi. You even had yourselves, you have complained about deployment of state security and all these fights, people being arrested. None of that stuff was reported in Kericho. Kericho was a smooth election. People were trooping into the election, into the polling stations, voting and going. Now, the delays in Malindi, we do not know if there were delays in the first place. The speed of counting and the dispatch of the results may have been different. But we would have heard from you in Malindi complaining about the problems that Khan is complaining about in Kericho. There has been no complaint except that these ones were coming in faster than these ones. I mean, we did not have a pre-established automated machine for counting votes so that it have to be generated at the same time. These are human beings in different circumstances.
And okay. Just so we make sure that David is not speaking for the IEBC.
He is speaking.
Yeah. No, he is not speaking.
I'm speaking rationally in my capacity here.
You know, in Kericho we have 6 constituencies. We had to wait well past 1, 2 o'clock for us to get the very final one. That means if you are, for example, taking those 2 or 3 polling stations to come from one constituency, you know, you need to compare that because I think that was Kipkelion East was one of the last constituencies. Their results came way after 2 p.m. So you don't need to look at the entire county. You look at the specific constituency, and you could easily compare Malindi with Kipkelion East or Malindi with Soin Sigawet East. You know, so you just need to look at the entire constituency.
So that addresses tallying and timing. But Mr. Salat, I think you have other gripes. You've talked about the abuse of state resources, and you've also talked about a computer program.
Yes. Can we talk about Form 35A?
Okay.
The one that you said they have similar
signatures. Yes.
Can you tell us the process? when maybe Makari can tell us when 35A, when you get results and put them 35A, who takes the document? Where is the document?
The agents are supposed to keep a copy of the results. So Nick Salat should tell us whether that polling station he says the signatures are the same. He had an agent and what the agent says, because his name details are actually the presiding officer, instead of us talking about fiction.
Okay.
You don't call that fiction. I think Makali here.
What is
you seem to actually be leaning towards the side where jab here. What we're trying to say here, Makali, just wait. On that particular day, yes, sir, when you go to a polling station, right from start to finish, at the end of it all, there is that Form 35 to be filled, which is to tally, to put the results. One, all our agents are supposed to sign it. If you look at the form, it's not supposed to have a single handwriting by one person. In the ones we have, which is we have about 100 forms, which they all seem to have been pre-filled.
Who delivered the same to you? How did you get the forms?
Exactly. Which we're saying, we are suspicious as to the nature of having forms that are pre-filled.
Where did you get the forms from?
Where did you get
We got it from our agents.
Which agents?
Yes.
Have you brought IEBC to check?
We brought all that, and that's why we have a beef with IEBC.
So your agents didn't sign the forms?
They didn't sign.
The problem I have with this argument is
pre-filled.
Somebody says the agents had forms which were pre-filled.
Yes.
Somebody has not taken those forms to IEBC to show them those forms. They are talking out there in the wilderness, in the streets. Yet IEBC has said bring them so that we see whether these are real forms
IEBC
or they are fictitious. Let me finish. How do you establish if the forms are legitimate or they are fictitious forms?
Yes.
How?
IEBC summons us through the press. They have not written a formal letter to invite us to bring.
We invite you to complain.
But have you but have you gone to IEBC to say these are our problems, this is the evidence?
All we had was that IEBC gave us a deadline to be before them and meet it.
No.
You have the forms here.
Yes.
They are not signed by your agents.
Some have not signed by our agents. Yeah.
What about the one signed
They
by
were
your
not given
agent?
the chance because these are pre-filled forms.
Even
But
which from?
Mr. Salat,
But you are saying you got them
as a
from agents.
responsible party official, should you not have gone to the IEBC and said we have evidence of electoral malpractice? Here it is.
What we're saying here is that the forms that we have.
I've asked you a simple question. You've told us about the forms. What did you do with them?
No, where did they get it from?
We got them from our
the
agents.
If your agents have the forms, why have they not signed them?
Because we're still receiving more forms from our agents up to now.
Why would an agent bring you a form we didn't sign?
Because that is what part of the malpractices we're
And where did you get the form from?
Because that is the malpractices we're
What did the agents get the forms from?
At the rate at which the agents are supposed to report to our talent center, they are coming in,
yes,
and we're still receiving them. And the ones we've had, and which we've taken analysis of, is that there is a lot of anomalies on this form.
Okay. Let's come back to David for a minute.
Yeah.
Where should the agents have gotten legitimate forms from?
Yeah, let's not treat this country to this kind of sham.
No, just
I'm
answer
just
the
saying, I'm
question, yes.
explaining. An agent does not get a form. The form is there. The forms are in the hands and the custody of the presiding officer. The presiding officer is the person in charge of a polling center. And they sit like this. The forms, after the exercise is over, they are the forms which are filled, right there. You fill 3 forms, or whatever the number of agents you are, because each party, each candidate needs to keep a copy of the results, for whether you want to go to court or whatever may arise. They sign the results. If you have any dispute with those results, you note that I am declining for whatever reason in that form. So there cannot be forms which were carried away and signed by who? Where from?
The question is, if Kanu got the forms not signed from agents, can they explain to us how the agent got that form which is not signed, and he was the representative of the
I think what Mr. Salat is saying that the forms are pre-filled.
Pre-filled. These are
pre-filled. What do you get them?
That is a malpractice. Where
did they get them?
Where
do they get them?
Okay, Senator.
This is what you're saying.
No.
It's really unfortunate when we treat the country into this kind of discussions that take us nowhere. One, if, for example, what Nick Salat is complaining of is genuine, they should have raised these issues with IEBC. You can't imagine that your agent has a pre-filled form and you sit down here for a whole 1 week and you're telling us that IEBC should have given you a specific date, an invitation, official invitation to come and complain. Really, if you have issues, you present your issues to IEBC. And you see, Nick Salat is one of those diligent politicians. When he had an issue with this election, in Bomet, he took it all the way to the Supreme Court. I really can't understand the change of heart by Nick Salat, that he even doesn't want to even complain before IEBC.
Can I just hear from Mr. Mbadi?
Yeah. But the fundamental point here is the level of confidence that political players have in IEBC. This is not the first time that the issue of Form 35A, I think now it is Form 35, it used to be another form, is becoming an issue. We have heard of cases where we have multiple Forms 35As, and we have, as court, remember last time we went to the Supreme Court on the basis of forms. We were ruled that we came late with the information, but the bottom line is that there has been and there continues to be manipulation of electoral results through Form 35As. And so you should not just dismiss Nick Salat's concerns. I think probably what Nick Salat has not done is to report this matter to IEBC. And that, to me, takes me to the level of confidence that Kanu now has on IEBC. Because what use would it be to you to to report to an institution that you already know is biased. And I think that is actually, this is not something that no one should dismiss, including David. And I know David is my friend and is usually a very level-headed man, and I still want to believe he's still in my corner of people who are level-headed. Now, the point I'm trying to put is, we need to talk to IEBC.
Okay.
What Nick Salat is demonstrating this morning is lack of faith in that institution, and it is very dangerous. By the way, the number that is losing faith on IEBC is growing by the day, and that is not very healthy for the electoral process.
I want to mention that after we issued our press release on Sunday, we stated very clearly that how can the accused ask me to go before them? That is the IEBC. Some people are suggesting we go to we take this, we appeal, we go to court.
Yeah.
We don't have faith in the judiciary.
My goodness.
So where do you if the Chief Justice himself of the land is saying there is actually a problem within the judiciary,
but you want to
so we decided to go.
When you lost the election, when you lost the election, did you not go? Which court did you go to?
I went all the way to the Supreme Court, and now even the judges who sat for my case are being investigated for the way they conducted my case. So living example is me. I do not have faith in the judiciary. So what we do, we go before the court of public opinion, and we let Kenyans know that going forward to 2017, is this the institution that we will mandate to undertake the next general election, if there are no reforms that are going to be done.
And so we have to take a break now. We will come back to this. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Our SMS number is 22422. Our Twitter handle is #Cheche. We're discussing the Kericho and Malindi by-elections. What lessons do they offer for next year's general elections? Do you think that the IEBC can properly manage those elections?